Hi, welcome to an episode of Waste Management. I'm Steve Ritter. I'm faculty here at North Campus. We're here at the North Campus Miami-Dade College at the Science Complex. Attached to the Science Complex, we have a planting of different flowering trees as well as a palmedum. The palmedum is just a planting of palms. We have about 200 to 300 different species in here. We're going to take a walk through there, talk about some of the palms, how it's situated, how it's set apart, and the whole idea behind this really is to give you an idea of the palms that do well in South Florida. If something is growing in here and it looks good, I guarantee you it'll look just as good in your yard. Here they're given, I can say, minimal care. They're given water, fertilized occasionally, but if they look good in here, they'll look good in your yard. Before we even enter, let's look at one of these royal palms. We have a royal palm here. If you look at the top of the palm, notice the fronds up there. That's called frizzle top. That's actually a nutrient deficiency. It's actually not a disease. It's an easy fix. You can actually go ahead, fertilize with micronutrients, and believe it or not, the new growth that comes out will be okay. But the thing is, you have to catch it early. If you let it go, you let it get past the point, the palm will die. Remember with palms, palms have one growing point. It's not like a tree. You could take a tree, cut it down, it'll sprout from the base. Palms won't do that. Palms have one growing point. The growing point is right at top. If with this palm, you could see the green area at the base of the green where it meets the brown trunk. That's where the growing point is. You kill the growing point, you kill the palm. Anyway, okay, these are royal palms. They're actually native to South Florida. They like it wet. So if you have an area of your yard that gets flooded or where it's wet, these guys will do rather well. Some people even call them concrete palms because you notice the trunk looks kind of like a concrete pole. Okay? But anyway, they're the native palm, native to South Florida, put here just at the entrance. With the entrance of the palmedum, notice we have a nice fancy gate. The gate is to welcome you to the palmedum. When we enter inside, you'll notice there's a path. The path was actually designed by our students. So you can come in here, you could actually go for a walk, follow it around. Also inside, the palms have been separated as to origin. So where the palms are naturally found growing, they're put in the area. When we first enter, it'll be the Americas. Then we'll go to the Pacific Ocean, Indian Ocean. You'll see as we get in, they're all pointed out. So let's enter the palmedum. By the way, the palmedum is open to the public. You're welcome to come in here and look at the different palm varieties. Okay, we've now entered. We are now in the Americas. The Americas are Central America and South America. We are not including Florida in that. Florida we're including in the Caribbean Basin. The palms found in Florida are also found out throughout the Caribbean. If you look around you here, notice there's a path goes off to the side, further up goes off to the side, so you can actually walk around and meander through here. Some of the palms I wanted to show you here. This is one of the common genera of palms found in the Americas. This is Cyagrus. The more common type is the queen palm, which I don't even think we have a queen palm in here. But queens are another in the genera. We also have sables. If you go over here, these palm over here. If you notice, it looks somewhat similar to our state tree. Our state tree is actually a palm. It's not a true tree. It's not a hardwood. But it looks similar to this. This is the one native to Mexico. This is Sable mexicana. So notice grows up, looks rather similar to ours, more robust. But if you want a more robust sable, we go over here. These are the ones actually which are native to Cuba. The Cuban hat palm. These are actually, we started from seed, which I brought back from Puerto Rico. The base on this palm can get to have a diameter of over a foot, let's say about 1.5 feet. So it has a really big diameter. And if you notice the way it grows, the way palms grow, before they actually start growing up and getting taller, they actually get fatter, fatter, and fatter. So they develop their circumference while they're still short and squat. Once that diameter has been developed, once it's there, then they start growing up. So that's why you'll plant a palm and you'll see it's really not getting taller for a while. That's what it's doing. It's developing a good, strong root system, and it's also increasing in girth. Once that maximal girth is there, it actually starts increasing in size, getting taller and taller. Here are some interesting palms also. Notice, deadly. Look at the spines. The spines aren't only on the trunk, they're also on the leaf. Now you might ask yourself, why would a palm be covered in spikes? Look at this one here. Covered in spines. Why would a palm be covered in spines? To protect what's up top. It produces fruit. A matter of fact, this one over here is the peach palm. Those of you from Central South America, I'm sure you've eaten it. It's a yellow fruit, yellow-orangey color fruit, which is boiled, very starchy. So that's produced on this tree. But it is protection. It keeps animals from climbing up. And the fruit's rather big. Some birds can eat it, some birds can't. But a matter of fact, animals, I think as far as the palm goes, the palm would really prefer for a bird to eat it as opposed to an animal. Birds fly. Birds can take the seed and deposit it far away from the parent. So what the bird does, what a bat does, a bat is for seed dispersal. So you have plants producing fruit, palms in this case producing a fruit, eaten by a bird, eaten by a bat. When the bat's flying, bird's flying, its fecal matter falls. The seed then has fertilizer, falls to the ground, starts growing. So that's really how palms are dispersed throughout the tropics. Okay, let's continue our way around. Okay, here we have one of the palms that is known for being spiny. It's actually the whole genera Chrysophylla. Now, you're not going to need me or need a palm person out here, actually, when you're out here walking through the palmedum. Most of the palms actually have tags on them. If you notice this palm here, notice we have a palm here. It shows you the scientific name, has the common name, and tells you its origin. This is a palm in bloom. Notice the inflorescence, not very showy. They don't have big flashy petals, but they do have the parts and they produce a lot of pollen and a lot of nectar. You could actually see the bees flying around it. This actually is not a lot of bees for pollinating here. Normally you get like twice, sometimes 3 times this amount. Also, if you look, there aren't only bees up there, there are also flies. So basically flying insects are the ones that actually do the pollinating. Once it's pollinated, you then will get seed, which you can see over here. These are some of the seed. They are not yet mature. When they are mature, they will turn red. Okay, folks, we have just left the Americas. Welcome to the Indian Ocean. These are a lot of the palms that you're going to see growing in people's yard. For some reason, they're very popular. They're nice, small, compact palms. This palm is very common. This is a bottle palm. It's actually not a very good specimen of a bottle palm, but it is a bottle palm. Called a bottle palm because it has a bottle shape. Swollen, going to a narrow neck. That's characteristic of a bottle palm. This is native to Madagascar. Notice the size. This might get maybe another 5 foot tall. They say max this palm can get is 20 feet. I've never seen one 20 feet tall. However, a nice palm for the house, basically. Nice, small. Thing about it, though, the one characteristic about it that I prefer the spindle palm, and I'll show you that momentarily, is because the most leaves I've ever seen on this is like 6 or 7 at a time. Notice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 leaves. Produce another one of the lower leaves are going to fall off. If you see the sky's getting ready to flower, it's producing a flower stalk here, and then it will produce, And this will probably be a hybrid because we have spindles very close by. They hybridize and we'll get a cross between the two, but I'll show you what there are momentarily. Okay, let's walk on through. This palm here, it seems anyone that comes to the palmedum, as you walk down the main entrance, when you enter the Indian Ocean, you notice these palms. These palms are again native to Madagascar, native to Africa. These are sugar palms, black sugar palms. They are striking, they're gorgeous. Notice the black fiber that it produces. These spines that you would think would be really mean, they're actually not. Look, see, don't hurt, don't do a thing. But it's quite a striking palm. This palm will get maybe another 5-10 feet tall, flower and die. These palms live about 20 years, and that's about it. So if you want a palm that grows relatively quickly in your yard, and then if you want change, put something like this in there. It'll grow 20 foot tall, then die for you, and produces a lot of fruit, which you might be able to sell to a sugar processor, I don't know, or learn how to process it yourself. Okay, let's continue on another common palm, which I'm sure you have seen. This palm also native to the Indian Ocean, Madagascar. Notice the shape of the leaf blades, how it grows. It forms a triangle, thus called triangle palm. Thing about the triangle palm, if you plant one of these, they kind of like being by themselves. This is not a palm you plant in a cluster. There's a palm you put by itself. It's a specimen, and it is rather pretty. I like them better even when they're younger. When they're younger, you get the triangle coming right out of the ground. You don't have the circular coming up, just have the triangle. And notice, produces a lot of seed, and we even have babies coming up at the bottom. Then we have a palm over here. Again, is a Latania. Notice at the base, tons of seed. On the plant, tons of seed. Since it produces seed, it's a female. This is one of the palms which are called dioecious, meaning separate male and separate female palms. This is a female, obviously, it produces seed. This is a male. Notice, this is spent, by the way. It has a male gametophyte, or the male part, which produces pollen. Once it does, it dies. That's about it. But this is a nice palm, nice compact. Thing about them, they're also some pretty salt tolerant too. So you can plant this relatively close to the ocean here. Okay, this is the palm I was talking about earlier. This is the spindle palm. This is in the same genera, the same genus, as is the bottle palm. If you recall, the bottle palm swollen at the base, narrow at the top like a bottle. This shaped like a spindle. Spindle, narrow on both sides. We have narrow at the base, narrow at the top, and notice swollen in the middle. This guy is heavily into bloom flowering. This palm is monoecious, meaning it has both male and female flowers on the same plant. So it will pollinate itself. However, it's pollinated by bees. Bees fly around. So if you have a bottle and a spindle close by, it will hybridize. This guy here, notice we have an inflorescence just coming out. We have one a little more advanced, little more. Then we actually have unripe seed. Then if you look over here, we actually have the seed, which is pretty well ripe. If you take it, notice I can squeeze it, and you actually have the seed inside. So these seed are almost ready to go. I think I'm going to collect some, and I'll actually plant them. This palm is very popular. We planted a lot around campus. Notice the stature, the size. They might get maybe 10 foot taller. If they get 10 foot taller. That'll be about it. But notice, they're nice, small palm. Notice I mentioned with the bottle palm the number of leaves. Notice the spindle. The spindle has about 2 or 3 more leaves in there, so it gives you a fuller head. So that is spindle. Also, here's a palm which I know you're all familiar with. You probably have one in your yard. Look familiar? It should. This is an areca palm. This palm is very, very common. People plant them as hedges. If you plant it as a hedge, you want to leave all the base there. If you have it as a specimen, I recommend going in there and removing all the little suckers coming up so you can see through it. But notice how thick, notice how heavy this guy grows. Native again to Madagascar. We do have a close relative which is located right over here. This palm is called a cabata. It's a close relative of the areca. Notice how open it is. Notice how airy it looks. If you want a specimen just to put there a branching palm from the base, this will do it for you. Okay, grows about just like an areca does. However, does not produce the profusion of growth from the base. So instead of having, what, 30 or 40, you might get 5, 10, let's say, sprouts coming up from the base. All the little sprouts coming up there are seedlings that actually fell a bunch of seed, which are actually sprouting. But this palm I would actually like to see more of in the trade because I consider it to be a tame areca. And it's actually quite showy, actually quite pretty. Okay, let's leave the Indian Ocean. We're now going to enter the Pacific. Okay, welcome to the Pacific Ocean. If you notice here, before we even enter the Pacific Ocean, we have a nice plaque here. It tells you Pacific Ocean. It tells you the area in the Pacific Ocean. Those are basically the islands scattered throughout the Pacific. Gives you an example of palms which you might find there, and also a short little narrative telling you about it. At present, we do have this sign here. We are in the process of replacing them in every area. So hopefully within a month or two, when you come out here, you will actually have a sign at each station. So when I was walking through there saying the Americas, I was saying Indian Ocean, Asia, there will actually be a sign. It'll show you the area we consider it, representative palm, and a short narrative. Let's talk about the representative palm we have here. Notice, coconut. Let's go over here and we'll talk about the coconuts. Okay, here we go. We have an example of a coconut. This coconut is a Malayan dwarf. This is the yellow cultivar, the yellow type. Notice the coconuts up there, they are yellow. The petiole, the branch, which the leaf is attached to the stem, also has a yellowish hue to it. This palm, it was called dwarf. It actually is not a dwarf palm. Reason why it was called dwarf, it starts producing fruit when the plant's quite short. So the plant will be my height and it'll have fruit on it already. Therefore, they thought it was a dwarf. But in reality, no, this will get just as tall as any other coconut variety. The reason why we have this coconut, back about 30 years back, there was a disease that came through Florida. It's lethal yellowing of palms. The coconut variety that we had planted here, the Jamaican tall coconut, was quite susceptible to the disease. So it wiped out most of the Jamaican tall coconuts. So we were looking for varieties which are resistant. The Malayan dwarf is moderately resistant. They used to say 98% resistant. Now it's down about 50% resistance. But nonetheless, that's a lot better than being totally susceptible. Then other coconuts that they were trying to introduce. Over here we have a planting of 3 coconuts. Believe it or not, they are all the same age. I actually got these coconuts from the USDA research station. I was actually told they're Fiji dwarf coconuts. Fiji dwarf coconuts are true dwarf coconuts. If you notice, we have 3. One of them, the one I'm holding on to here, is a true dwarf. Notice the size. Notice how small it is. Notice the other 2. The other 2 are hybrids. Just like I told you, you never know what you're going to get. The female, the mother of these, was a Fiji dwarf. But we don't know what the father was. The father could have been a Malayan, could have been a Jamaican, we don't know what. But whatever, it's a hybrid. So the hybrid has characteristics of both. This guy here appears to be the true dwarf. The other two appear to be hybrids. Nonetheless, will produce fruit. You will get coconuts, so these are coconuts. And if you notice, we have one over there with coconuts on it. They're the bronze color coconuts. So they're nice. Notice what I said, the reason why they're called dwarf. They're actually, these two I don't think will actually be dwarf, but they start producing when they're young. This guy, however, appears to be a true dwarf. We'll see, we'll monitor this guy over the years and see what we get. Okay, here we have a palm. This palm is called a petticoat palm. Again, remember, reason being, looks kind of like a petticoat. You could see over here, it's one that's a little larger. You notice, when the leaves die, you leave them hanging from the plant. They kind of hang down like a petticoat. So they're left there. It's quite showy palm, native to Cuba. And they get might get twice this height. But that's about it. Once they get taller, actually the petticoat, the lower branches fall off. Then you can see the stem, and then it hangs down. I think at this stage, they're quite attractive and quite pretty. Here we have a palm native to Cuba. This palm is called the old man palm. Reason why it's called an old man palm. If you look at the base, notice the hair all over the trunk. Kind of like gray, matted hair. Thus, old man palm. This guy grows very slowly. This guy is probably 30 years old. So, they're expensive, they're slow growing, they require a little pampering in South Florida. I had one in the ground, wasn't too happy, put it in a pot, it's thrilled. Okay, our soils are not the best. Cuban soils, rich volcanic soils, so therefore, big difference. But it's a nice little palm. You want a nice little palm, go for it. There you go. Here we have a palm. This palm is called the voodoo palm. Called the voodoo palm for a few reasons. First of all, native to Haiti. So those of you from Haiti, you might be familiar with this palm. Reason why I was told it's called a voodoo palm. The seed it produces are white, and at night it reflects the moonlight. So you're walking through a thicket or so, and you'll actually see these like little eyes looking back at you. But in reality, something else about it. If you notice, the palm is very well armored. If you notice these spines going on here, if you are going to make a voodoo doll, you must have this palm. The spine, the needles that you stick in the voodoo doll actually comes from this palm. So you'd actually break off the spines and actually use that for your voodoo doll. I'm not saying do it, but nonetheless. So that would be it. This palm gets about 3-4 times that height, a nice thicket. If you don't like your neighbor, you plant a row of these. They're not getting through it. You won't be able to see them. They won't see you. Okay, remember earlier I was talking about the fishtail palm and I said they flower from the top down? If you notice, there are flower producing seed at each node. That's where you have the leaf attached to the stem. As you go down, seed, more seed, more seed, more seed. This palm flowers from the top down all the way at the base. When it's done flowering, it dies. But before it does so, produces thousands and thousands of seed. Now let's talk about palms close to home. These are palms which you can actually see in Florida. They are native. Here is our state tree, the sable palmetto. Notice, seen all over the place, this palm can actually take it quite cold. Grows well up into the Carolinas, even southern Virginia along the coast. Can take freezing for a short period of time. Notice you can get these and they're very, very inexpensive. Reason being, you could order one this size. They will plant it in your yard this size. Probably for planting, shipping, everything, less than $100 for something this big. Very cheap. Reason being, what they do is they go to swampy areas, Central Florida. They actually dig them up. The nice thing about palms, especially the sable, When you transplant it, you cut off all the leaves. All you leave is that one crown shaft, that one little leaf that hasn't opened in the middle. And you don't need to take any roots. Because with sables and many palm varieties, when you disturb the root actually dies back to the main trunk. And then it'll produce new roots from the trunk. So there's really no reason to take a root ball. So what you get if you buy one of these, you'll get a pencil. Literally. It's just the trunk, the little ball at the bottom with no roots on it, and a little spike in the center. They have a very, very, very good success rate transplanting. So if you like one and once it's in the ground, leave it alone, forget about it. Does very, very, very well. This is our sable state tree. I think it's the state tree of South Carolina also, as you go up the coast. So very, very common, very cold tolerant for us as well. Okay, I wanted to show you this palm in particular. This is a sable. This is just like our sable. Our sable, remember I said trunk, that's about as fat as it's going to get. This is sable yappa, native to one of the Caribbean islands. Don't remember which one. But actually, notice what I said. I said it increases in girth before it starts growing up, developing the stem. Notice how fat the base got. That's as fat as it's going to be, then it'll continue growing up. This guy is also getting ready to flower. Notice, it's starting to produce little flower spikes, which will grow and then produce seed. I would not collect any seed from here, reason being, I could assure you it'll be a hybrid. It'll be a mix of all the other sables we have here. So, if you want something different, yes, otherwise, I would say it's not going to be pure. The seed I collected from Puerto Rico was from the wild, actually in pure stands. So I can pretty well document that what stuff is labeled here. Is that palm? Is that palm? Okay, the palms we have here, these are Thrynax palms. They are native to Florida. Notice they have like a papery or thatchy type base at the leaf base. Nice fan-shaped leaf, black fruit. Actually, as a solitary palm, very nice. They take dry conditions very, very well. So if you have this, put it in the ground, forget about it. I have some at my house. They're just there. They're gorgeous. They actually are very nice. It doesn't seem like much really bothers them either. So they're just there. They're rather pretty. Notice the trunk. This is as fat as it's going to get. Height-wise, these are already pretty tall. They can get 20 feet, but takes quite a while for them to get up there, but they are very nice. Okay, here we go. We have a pseudo phoenix palm. Notice the shape. Gorgeous. We have a native variety which is native to the Keys. Before it was restricted to the Keys, but now with global warming, things growing, warming up, you could actually plant this even up into Fort Lauderdale, Palm Beach. It doesn't take the cold very well, but now, you know, warmer, it's okay. Notice the beautiful shape. Palm takes a while to get like this. This palm is probably 20 to 30 years old. So it's not going to get massive quickly. But notice it's a gorgeous palm, at least in my opinion, it's a gorgeous palm. Native to South Florida. Okay, welcome to Asia. This is one of the most common Asian type palms that we grow in South Florida. This is called fishtail palm. Notice people that give the palms their names, they're not too creative. Look here. What does that look like? A fish's tail. Thus, fishtail palm. There's a palm foxtail. Looks like a fox's tail. Bottle palm, remember? Bottle shape. Spindle palm, spindle shape. So the people that name them, they're kind of like, you know, what it looks like, what they give it for the common name. Thing about the fishtail palm, there are two broad categories. One is solitary, which we have here. Notice it's one trunk coming up. Then we have the clustering type. Clustering type over there. Notice there are several palms coming up from the base. The characteristics of all these type of palms, all the fishtail palms. They flower and die. So this guy might live 30, 20 to, let's say, 40 years. It'll then flower. When it flowers from the top down. After it produced tons and tons of seed, all the way down to the bottom, the trunk dies. So if you have a solitary palm, a solitary fishtail, the palm's dead. If you have a clustering type, it'll just send up more shoots from the base. So this kind will actually can flower and continue to live. Just the two types. That type actually, 20 years when it's single, it's spectacular. You look at it, it's like, whoa, really nice. But then again, remember, flowers and dies. One palm that I really feel I have to bring to your attention, and now it really doesn't look like much, but give it time and it actually will. This palm here is called a talipot palm. Notice the leaf. The leaf is a fan-shaped leaf, and it's actually closed. This is actually very small. This palm, the leaf will get a 15-foot diameter. So you have the leaf held high in the air, 15-foot solid umbrella. You can actually stand under it and keep dry in a rainstorm. This palm lives about 70, 80 years, let's say. When it gets tall, when it gets ready to flower, it produces a seed pod on top, which looks like a Christmas tree. And I mean a Christmas tree, like a 5 to 10 foot Christmas tree. Massive. It then produces a lot of seed. When the seed is ripe, the palm dies. The way the seed is dispersed, the palm falls over in a storm. The seed then fly everywhere and then germinate. But if you want a palm lasting about 70 years, this will do it. And actually, as far as the seed goes, if you offer to give the seed to a nursery or something, they might even pay to remove the dead palm for you before it falls, because it's actually a palm which is sought after in the trade. Okay, what we have here is a lady palm. This palm is one of the few palms that does very well in your house. If you want a palm in your house under filtered light conditions, put it by a window so it gets a little bit of light. This palm will be fine. A matter of fact, it'll probably look better in the house than it's looking out here. Out here, it might be getting too much sunlight. This palm definitely likes the shade. It's native to Asia. But nice little palm, nice shady thing. Again, also good characteristic of it. Notice it spreads by underground stems, rhizomes. So even if the palm dies, it'll produce new palms coming up from the base. Also, if you want, you can just cut those off, pot them up separately. So it's an easy palm to propagate. So it's a nice little palm, again, for the house or out here. And then we have another one over here, which is a subspecies. This is just a subspecies of the rhapis. That's lady palm. I'm not sure what they call this one. It's just a subspecies. Notice it's a little more demure, smaller leaf, smaller, and it actually likes it out here better than that one is. And it's starting to produce seed, so I guess we can propagate more. And to show you, I'm sure you've all seen these. This is our state tree. This is the sable palm. This is just small. We did not plant it. Birds eat the seed. When they fly, deposit the seed. So they tend to come up all over the place. Sable does well. Notice in shade. Then grow shade, full sun. If you want a palm for your house that's carefree, this will do it. Very nice, put it in. And the nice thing is they're very cheap. Remember I said that big one you can get for less than $100 installed? Dynamite. I've actually seen them as cheap as like $70 installed for nice size. So again, state tree, think Florida. Okay, welcome to Africa. This is a really good palm to start with. This is the African oil palm. If you have palm oil, this is it. This is where they get it from. If you notice, this guy is monoecious. You have both male and female flowers on the same plant. If you look up here, notice the male flowers. Male flowers are spent, they're kind of long, cylindrical, look like small little cigars or something. Then you notice beneath it that ball of seed. That's actually where they get the oil from. Those are the seed, that would be the female flower. So this palm flowers, produces for year after year after year, does not die after flowering. Nice palm, I mean if you want one in your yard, but slow growing. This guy actually had it in here several years, hasn't really grown all that much. But nice palm. Here another African palm. This palm is a Borassus palm. Doesn't look like much now. When it gets big, looks kind of like a sable on steroids. Gets a nice big robust trunk. Notice the nice leaves. When it produces a fruit, the seed looks like a small coconut. The neat thing about the seed, it works like an air freshener. If you have a smelly room, a smelly place in the house, you could take the seed, bring it in, and it absorbs the odor. So it actually takes the odor out of the air. But it's a nice palm. This guy actually won't start seeding, flowering for many years. This is very young. Remember I said like a sable or state tree on steroids. So it has a really big fat trunk, grows high. Once it's up there, it'll then start flowering and producing. Okay, let's continue on. Here's a palm I just have to mention only because it's rather common. This is a Canary Island date palm, native to, of course, the Canary Islands. If you look, it's a pretty palm. Thing about it, it's mean. If you have one in your yard, notice at the base, see spines. And yes, they are mean. I'm not going to play with it. But there have actually been cases, people working with this, where the spines have actually gone well into people's arms and stuff. So it's, if you have one, they're gorgeous, they're fine, but treat it with respect. Rather than planting one of these, you can actually plant a Cyagrus, which is a close relative. Looks very similar, but actually does better in South Florida conditions. This is more of a desert type palm. It likes it dry, it likes a dry area. So this palm would tend to do better under those conditions. So I would recommend the Cyagrus. Looks almost as good, but not quite. Here's another palm native to Africa, which we're on. This is called the teddy bear palm. Called teddy bear palm because the petiole of the leaf, if you come out here, if you come and you rub it, it feels like a teddy bear. So it's actually very nice. It's actually quite showy, feels good. And then it falls off. This one is starting to flower, so we should have seeds so we can start more. By the way, this palm is probably close to, I don't know, 10 to 15 years old. So it tells you the growth rate. Not all that fast. But it is a nice palm. Will get tall eventually. If you're looking for a rugged little palm, little and eventually will start branching from the base. This palm is the only palm native to Europe. This is the European fan palm. Fan palm, fan-shaped leaf. Nice little palm here. This guy's been here for, what, 6-7 years? When we got it, it was maybe 3/4 this height. So you see, it doesn't grow all that quickly. But it's actually a nice, cute little palm. The area here where it's planted, we call this our deviant palm area. Only because these are palms that are hybrid. And you think of it, what better palm to put here than the European fan palm? It's the only palm native to Europe. So where else would we put it? Okay? Also, one last place I want to show you before we head out. Okay, we do have palms that actually like it wet, meaning they like their roots to be grown in water. Eventually, this area was actually filled with water. Since then, it drained. It's the dry season. Once the rains start again, it should fill again. These are palms that actually like growing under wet conditions. One in particular, which is native to South Florida, is this palm over here. This palm is called a Perotis palm. This is actually, they plant it, I've seen it used in dry areas where it's not very happy. This guy, notice how thick, notice how lush it looks, notice how happy. It's nice and wet in here. So it likes, remember, wet conditions. This palm is native to the Everglades. it can actually be grown in standing water. So if you have a little swampy area by your house and you want to put a palm there, this is actually an excellent choice. Will do very well, can take it, and you're bringing the Everglades actually to your home. Okay, let's start heading out, and if I see anything interesting on the way out, I'll stop and point it out. But let's start heading out of the palmedum. Actually, on the way out, I noticed there are two palms I missed. Two actually quite common palms that I'm sure you've seen around. This is one of them. This palm is actually genus Icevechia palm. It's native to the Caribbean basin, also one of the islands. It's normally a solitary palm, meaning it's one palm, one trunk, leaves. However, they're normally planted in groups of 3. We have one in groups of 2 over there. So they're generally planted in clusters, but they are actually a solitary palm, and they will not branch from the base. Looks kind of like, I guess you could, kind of coconutty in somewhat respect, but they're actually nice palms. There is one of these, which is the Christmas palm, which is actually like considered to be an indicator for lethal yellowing disease. That's the one that killed all the coconuts. It's highly susceptible to lethal yellowing. Nice palm, grows rather slowly. Reason why the Christmas palm's called Christmas palm. Notice the fruit up there? At Christmas time, they're red. So you actually have the red balls at Christmas time. Here's one. So I'm sure you must have seen these. Generally, red, Christmas, red balls hanging from the tree. Thus, green ones up there. I hope you've enjoyed our tour of the palmedum. There were just a few of the palms I mentioned. There are many, many, many more out here to look at. Remember I said you're more than welcome. We encourage you from the community. Please come, walk around, see the different palms that do well in South Florida. If you see it here and it looks good here, like I said earlier, it will do well in your yard. So please come, please visit us, and thank you for watching Waste Management. Have a good day.